All right. We are back. We are back. I think Ali is going to join me in a little bit, but I wanted to take a look at the Sotheby's auction, or the two auctions that are coming up. The Important Watches, which is actually taking place on November 5th in Geneva, and then Important Watches Part 2, which is actually an online auction, I think, that is going to end on November 7th, I want to say. Yes. But let's circle back to Important Watches Part 1. I'm going to send the link into the chat. Hopefully people started trickling in from the earlier stream. Thank you again, Madman, for joining. That is a beautiful, beautiful two-tone Daytona with a blue racing dial. I love those pieces. If you want to check out the unboxing and hit a like there as well, feel free to go to the earlier video. I have, let me see. I'll send the link into the chat from there as well. So, of course, I will eventually update it with a nice picture of the watch for the cover. So if you're trickling in from the last stream, you know what it is, but if not, feel free to click that link to drop a like. That is the stream that helped me, where Ali helped me welcome a new watch to my collection. They have some fire stuff here too. Wow. Let me know, guys, if you have your eye on any of these pieces where we can pull them up and discuss them in some detail. There's really some amazing stuff there. Lot 37, for example, right, with that perennial favorite that combines a salmon dial with white metal. Kind of a Clapton influence, you might say, because he was obsessed with using salmon dials in combination with white metal. And Patek releasing 5270 in platinum with the salmon dial. I always thought that it was a kind of subtle nod. Of course, the 5970G with the salmon dial and that single numeral at 12 o'clock was very much his signature. This is a production model, of course, still incredibly desirable. 5270 is rather large for a Patek Philippe. As you know, the 3970 is scaled right around 36 millimeters. 5970 grew into 40, and the 5270, which you see here, executed in platinum, is 41 millimeters. And I think its presence on the wrist is even more substantive because of those arachnoid, because of those spider-like stepped lugs, which I actually really adore as an aesthetic. And another important difference, of course, with the 5270 is in the dial layout. Of course, there's the tachometer on the perimeter of the dial, but perhaps the most important difference is how the day-night indicator and the leap year indicator was shifted into respectively 730 and 430 and displayed through these circular porthole-like openings. Hi, Ali. Are you a fan of the 5270?
Yeah, I'm generally not a fan of Patek, so no, I'm just not. I did start looking at the other lots. The minute lot 35, the minute repeater. Uh, I mean, obviously because of the art and it being a minute repeater, it's a little pricier, but I'm just not a fan of Patek. Like Patek leaves a bad taste in my mouth, so it's irrational. I'm not saying it's rational.
No. I mean that's okay though, because in so many ways, we have emotional connections to watches. We try to be learned and figure out these horological and historical details, but when push comes to shove, I think we really act with our feelings, with our emotions. It's an affective bond, so that can be negative or positive. I thought you might like the case shape because of the styling of the lugs, perhaps, but
It's the if somebody had showed me this and I didn't know it was a Patek, I would want to know much more about it. So as I said, it's irrational, and I'm willing to admit that. But I have a very bad taste in my mouth, so it's hard for me not to see problems where there just might not be any. Also, I mean, you dropped the link, and while I was waiting, I saw the Nardin and a couple other watches that I just find more appealing in the auction, so I could easily distract myself.
One thing I like, again, I much prefer the 3970 and 5970 because of the proportions, because of the fact that it is built on that legacy base of the Lemania CH27. But I do like the case shape on this. I like the combination of the salmon dial with white metal, and Patek's styling of chronograph calibers, with the black polished cap and the mirror polished countersunk screw is always a lovely touch. The way
you just said black polish and mirror polish as contrasting views. I think any moment now, Jonathan Quell Higgins will appear.
Yeah, he might. Maybe he should. Maybe he should.
I don't. Did you ever hear about the debate between Tanzil and Jonathan?
I heard about it, but what exactly is it? Can you explain the sides to me?
It's just that black polishing and mirror finishing are they the same, or are they two different techniques? And
I think it's a difference in degrees.
It's a difference in degrees. So that was evident to almost everybody. But the way it came across, and I didn't hear it firsthand. So secondhand, the way it came across is that Jonathan said they are completely different. They are actually different things. And it became a funny point of contention. So when you said it, that immediately popped in my head. I miss the guy. I know he's developed new animosity towards me, but I miss the guy. He's talented.
Trust me, I mean, if he were gone for the next century, I would still not miss him. But we don't have to agree on everything.
Your interactions were slightly different.
This is lot 37, a Patek Philippe 5270p with the salmon dial. Gorgeous watch. Not exactly my taste in Patek, but honestly, they can't do the same thing over and over. So I understand when they transition into new styles, and the piece has an estimated value that is in the range between roughly 132,000 to almost 200,000 in US dollars. What was the minute repeater you were looking at, Ali?
The lot 35, the 55, 31.
Yeah. The world time minute repeater with the Lake Geneva.
I think that's whimsically beautiful.
Yeah. It's also, again, one of those cases that you have to appreciate in person as well. But even from the profile, you can see how voluptuous it is. It's basically has all over the case band the classic Claude Paris hobnail decoration. Of course, the slider needs its space there. The lugs are pierced, kind of hollowed out. Very interesting. It kind of gives it like an exoskeleton kind of shape, as if it had a mid case, although I think the lugs are simply soldered. Well, I don't mean to say simply. It is good work. And of course, one of the things that I really appreciate about the world time calibers is the fact that 99% of the time they are built on caliber 240, which is a beautiful micro rotor. This one, of course, another Patek classic is the cap, the Calatrava cross cap they put on the governor, which basically takes care of the pacing of the chime. That's a nice detail because it itself is not necessarily a beautiful sight, although it would please a nerd to see the governor move. You can still see that under the Calatrava cross, but I think that's also a nice detail they do with their chiming watches. And Patek likes, I mean, at least the Sterns like pink gold for their minute repeaters, so this doesn't really surprise me.
I like this execution on the dial of the art. I do like it.
Yeah. Clauson enamel is a beautiful, beautiful dial, idea for this sort of prestige watch. The Anders and Genève pieces that have these different scenes on the dial, I really love those as well, right? They had like one with, I want to say, what do you call it? The Montgolfier, the air balloons, I think you call them.
Mm-hmm. Hot air balloons.
Let me see if I can find that. I wish they had a little recording of the chime of this watch. Maybe they didn't want to risk giving a potentially bad image of it.
You have to. I mean, at these prices, you have to have recording. You just have to.
I think so. Honestly, I mean, I'm sure they can zoom you in for something if you are a big time collector. But why not have it on the page? Because Philips more recently has that. Philips does that, and I think that's a great idea. I mean, why wouldn't you? Right? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, you need to have video. It needs to be properly done. I'm sorry, it just has to be, because otherwise it remains as pretentious as Sotheby's just is. Right?
Yeah.
The people, the generation that will be bidding on these things next is our generation, right? And we will remember that they didn't have these things, and we will remember that it felt pretentious. Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is the Benjamin Chi collaboration with the
Edge. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I believe the city's ring is aventurine as well. So that's another nice detail on this.
That's nice. That's very well executed.
Yeah, with all the beautiful colors as well, all the different shades of blue and kind of pink sky.
I mean, how many pieces is that? That's enormously detailed and has a ton of depth.
Yeah, I mean, just laying out those hairline golden threads to establish that image in the first place, that might be that's pretty intricate work. I mean, I have a hard time drawing a bunny out of 69, so don't ask me. I'm easily impressed when it comes to these.
I still can't draw the stick figures for Hangman, so I'm not worried about it.
That sounded naughty, 69s and bunnies, but I didn't mean anything sexual by it, guys.
And suddenly a wild GMT appears. So it is pretty late for me, so I'm going to make a request. Do you mind taking a look at lot 59?
Lot 59?
Yeah.
So this, by the way, as GB Vol noticed, lot number 35, 5531R, the chiming world time wristwatch. It has an estimate that is roughly in the range of 660,000 to more than $1 million US. So let's take a look at 59.
Next page.
Oh. Wowzers. It's an automaton, huh?
I like it.
Man. And it is a minute repeater. So basically, they are going to beat that anvil, right? When it chimes. Am I right to guess that?
Yep.
Wow.
I like this.
It's pretty cool. And the case design, it's very traditional with the stepped lugs, platinum. Looks pretty compact from profile. I want to see what the dimension, 41.5. Not bad.
Right up my alley.
Yeah. And the dial, the description says black for the dial, but I swear this is like
that's a navy.
Profound blue. Yeah, it's a navy blue. It's a great idea, again, to combine an automaton with a minute repeater. Of course, the actual...
And Nardin has obviously done that many, many times.
Mm-hmm. Of course, the actual hammers of the chiming mechanism that are connected to the gong are different, but to, to have that connection between an automaton watch and a minute repeater is pretty impressive. And I always love a, 3-finger bridge, as if it were an old school pocket watch.
You don't see them often at all. And they really are lovely. See, this is the type of stuff that if I stay awake a little bit longer, I put a bid in on.
Why not?
Because I would be terrified at servicing. Honestly, that would be the why not.
Yeah, and rightly so, right? That's it's an investment, but there are not every single chiming watch is $500,000 and up. So there are deals out there. I have to admit, I've never seen and heard an Ulysse Nardin minute repeater in person.
Neither have
So I can't necessarily give a resounding recommendation for it. But it's certainly tempting at the price point.
There was a AP event in South Florida where they had a supersonic, and it sounded really beautiful. I was surprised, and how loud and how it was really, really beautiful. Oh, they're by the way, they're opening an AP house in Miami early next year.
Oh yeah, they opened the one here too. Yeah. I mean, let me know. I'm sure you would get into the inside of this one before I get anywhere near it. Although it's right across Mel's, which is one of my favorite haunts, because they still have the jukeboxes.
I think if you call and ask for an appointment and you actually say that you want to record, they will let you and they will host you very nicely. It's because the non-AP owners are getting into the New York AP house. The appointments are sometimes a few weeks out, but they are very gracious. So
I should probably try.
And I think that one in particular, they put a lot of effort in recruiting the architectural design and the designers and whatnot. So yeah, and I guess spring of 2024, they're opening AP House in Miami. I will be there.
And now we said supersonnery and AP chiming watches. This is an absolutely memeable scene from the Chopard boutique, where the technical advisor to the AP boutique came for a visit to see the watches, and this is how he reacted to the LUC full strike.
And then you turn it back slightly to bring it into have a red indicator into the new position. It's a bump on that. So it's the first commercially available on that wristwatch. This is important.
Did you see his face?
Mm-hmm. And now your caption makes a lot more sense. The Gawk 3000.
Yeah.
It's a bump on that. So it's the first commercially available on that wristwatch. This is important. I haven't seen one in 11.5 years.
It really is something, man.
Yeah, and honestly, when Ken Koshiyama from Chopard and Ferdinand Berthoud, he had a whole whole shtick, basically walking around the room with it while it's chiming, and he could go quite far into different parts of the boutique, and you could still hear it. And the great thing they do at Chopard is they have really made that sapphire their own. Not only the monoblock construction that integrates the gong into the crystal, they now have full sapphire cased versions, and a blue sapphire version now. I like where they're going with it. Again, not the segment that I'm necessarily rolling in, but Yeah.
If they produced an Alpine Eagle minute repeater, I would be very interested.
Sapphire Alpine Eagle?
No, not Sapphire Alpha, just a minute repeater Alpine Eagle. So the Luke Full Strike Sapphire, right? The first edition of it, I think they only made 3 or 5 of anyway, right? And they're 260,000. If they made an Alpine Eagle, their steel sports watch, right? Oh my God, look at that!
Yeah, there's only 5 of these.
Yeah, son of a goat.
I mean, it might be also part of the imagery that I associate with Chopard, because it's so, high society, it's so elegant. But I always feel with that sapphire monoblock construction already, their minute repeaters to me sound like someone, clinking onto the glass to give a grand speech in a cocktail party or something. Whereas
absolutely.
Patek is very, very much highbrow. It's almost like church bells. AP has, I think, a very unique, like you said, it's very loud, but there is a certain warmth to it that it still preserves.
It sounds very much like an organ in a constrained room. It has a weird way of echoing the Super Sunray. It just has this weird echo to it. I really love it.
Oh, just to clarify, GB Vol, I do spend a lot of time in Beverly Hills, and I am kind of cringe, so I won't deny that. But the AP house is actually in West Hollywood, an altogether different location than their Beverly Hills boutique, or South Coast boutique for that matter, which is where the Chopard is as well. Yeah, that's West Hollywood. And that's where Mel's is. And Mel's is really the opposite of Beverly Hills. It's like a time capsule, very classic diner, still with the jukeboxes. So, it's whenever we go there, it's a whole stack of quarters and lots of Elvis for me. I love that place. It's a different kind of cringe, perhaps still, but not Beverly Hills. Yeah, speaking of those price points, yeah, suddenly, something between, $33,000 to $55,000, which is lot 59, starts sounding kind of interesting.
The Full Strike rose gold tourbillon. I don't actually like their Full Strike platinum. I like the rose gold tourbillon, the limited production one. I guess it's limited, but it's unlimited. It's just build on request, I guess. Have you seen one of those in person?
I might have a surprise for you.
You might have it, because the Chopard closest to me has nothing interesting at all, ever.
That's a shame. I think I have just the thing.
Son of a... That's the one.
Yeah.
How much were they charging for that?
I think this is like 400,000 or something. It has the sapphire monoblock system, so the gong integrated to the crystal, stainless steel, black polished hammers, sapphire bridge on the tourbillon, which is absolutely beautiful. You know, the way they finish it, but the way it also looks. Obviously, you know, that one of the things about flying tourbillons that fascinates people like that is not only the difficulty of the execution, of course, but the fact that you also get an uninterrupted view of the whole affair. Here, of course, with the Sapphire Bridge, you don't, you know, you don't have to worry about that. You see right through it.
You and Stefan and the watches you guys get to see make me insanely jealous.
Honestly, I'm just, I have no shame. I step into the boutique. I'm nice to people. I ask nicely, and you know, the South Coast Plaza Chopard boutique is also a flagship boutique, and more recently they have significantly improved their stock, so you can basically see the entire selection there. But this was what was then New York City boutique, the one on Madison, where it's actually a different floor. So downstairs, just Chopard, an entire case of the whole collection of Chopard LUC, every single watch they have ever released, and some of the newer stuff as well. I believe this was actually going to someone. So
I hate that someone, whoever that is. I don't like them at all.
Yeah, it's really a, you know, again, had I $500,000 or $1 million to blow on watches, I think I would have a lot of Chopards.
The Chopard 80 close to me has 1 or 2 Alpine Eagles and 1 or 2 dress watches. They never have anything interesting, and they've never had an LU Chopard. Robert's face. Look at Robert's face. He looks so happy. Actually, not any day now. He's got 2 months, I think, till he has a grandchild, another grandchild show up, or his first grandchild, maybe.
Yeah, I love Robert. You know, as you know, I actually had the pleasure to meet him when I was in.
Yeah, saw the pictures. I've seen the photographic evidence. All right. With that, I appreciate you hosting me on 2 shows tonight. But it is getting close to 1, and I am fat and old. And I have not been sleeping well for quite some time now. So I'm going to go get what little sleep I can get. And I'm sure I will see you again soon. Congratulations, by the way. The watch was a lot nicer than I expected. I was really afraid it was going to be 1908. And I was prepared to hang up.
Never say never. Never say never.
No,
if someone gives me a 1908 for free, I will wear it.
Yeah, okay. They give it to you.
If Rolex gives it to me, I will wear it every day.
I'm sure. If they want to make you a spokesperson, by all means. Good night.
Thank you.
Enjoy, and I will catch you later, man.
Take care. Yeah, I don't know. Ali's hair looks kind of nice. It was good. I don't think he needs a haircut. I needed a haircut, and I'm glad to have gotten it. The funny thing about having an ever-receding hairline is you actually need to take better care of it, ironically, right? When your hair grows, it starts looking worse and worse and worse. The baldness is all the more noticeable. So there's that. Lot number 1. This is Cornino underline 5512. It's called Cornino for the beak looking, bird's beak looking crown guards that are styled and finished in that particular way. And it's called underline because of this underline under the 4 lines of writing at 6 o'clock. The underline dials are usually found in Rolex and Tudor pieces from early 60s. And at least the urban legend is that it signified the transition from radium to tritium. So that's the story with underline dials, although that story has never been confirmed by Rolex itself, at least not in the form of an official statement. The degradation and aging on the luminous material on the dial here is, shall we say, interesting. Not unappealing to me, honestly, but I can see it scaring away many contemporary watch lover. But this is the kind of piece I think that has aged gracefully, if you ask me. The sharp, again, faceted beaky or beak-like crown guards are also an appealing aspect of the watch, if you ask me. This piece is from early 60s also, around 1963. It also arrives with a Rolex service card dated to September 2017, so recent enough history of service. And lot 1 has an estimated value that is set in the range between roughly 11,000 to 22,000 US dollars. Again, we are looking at Sotheby's Important Watches, Part 1, which is an auction that is going to take place on November 5th at Sotheby's Geneva. Number 2 is the 5513 with the underline dial and the Cornino crown guards. Again, the difference between 1512 and 1513 was the chronometer certification. 1513 was basically the entry-level Submariner. At the time, of course, there was no Submariner date, which on its own rights may have become more iconic. I think more people recognize Rolex by the Cyclops magnifier on the date indicator than most other things. But obviously the Submariner, pure and simple, was the original, was the first from 1953. The 5512 had the chronometer certification, and thus the 4 lines of writing at 6 o'clock that signified that on the dial, whereas the 1513 has 2 lines of writing, and this being an earlier version has the meters first, as people also call it, and it is a gilt dial where the hash marks stand in relief and have this gilt appearance, which is a very unique look that some people prefer. I prefer matte dials myself, but I'm quite biased, of course. This piece is mounted also on the matching riveted oyster bracelets, which was the case with lot number 1 as well. And the pre-auction estimate is set right around the same price point as well, 11,000 to 22,000 US dollars. Please hit the like button, and if you haven't watched the unboxing, feel free to pull up that video and hit the like button on that too. You can watch it on your own time, so to speak. But in either case, I do appreciate you. That's the link for the unboxing. And on this auction, if you want me, just like Ali did, if you want me to kind of go on and pull up any of the watches that you would want me to talk about, I'd be happy to. Just send me the lot number, ideally with a super chat, and I would be glad to dive into it with some historical detail. This is a famous mill sub. As you can see, it is distinguished by a couple of things. First of all, it has its own reference number, 5513. As you can see, its rotational bezel is fully graduated, so to speak. Graduated for all the 60 minutes with the full hash marks throughout. It has broadsword hands for the hour and minutes, and the spear-shaped sweep center seconds hand as well. And finally, it has above the depth rating a T within a circle, which signifies the luminous material, the type of luminous material on the dial and the hands, which is tritium. Much like the way that the Tudor FXD is trying to resurrect it in its own way, of course. That's a more modern buckle-like case construction. The original mill subs have soldered / fixed spring bars. They were meant to be used with the fabric, canvas, now largely nylon NATO straps that we love so much as watch nerds. As you can see, the case back is engraved inside 5513, as Rolex was basically slapping those case backs on interchangeable models, right? You can find a lot of 5513s with 5512 case backs. Nevertheless, this is actually a 5517, and you can see the correct symbols as well as the issue number on the case back. It's understood that there were about 1,500 examples of the mill sub that were ever made, and only really a third of them, maybe a few hundreds to 500 are accounted for. So to find one in this sort of beautiful condition, it's really quite a treat. And of course, the so-called maxi dial is part of its charm as well. As you can see, the lume plots are slightly enlarged and very full compared to dials from earlier or later periods, for that matter. And that adds to the appeal of the watch. This is lot number 3, which is a Rolex Milsub, reference 5517, of course with the fixed spring bars from late 70s. This piece is expected to fetch an amount somewhere in the range between 132,000 to 198,000 in US dollars. I want to actually take a look at this lot number 5. This is a so-called Zenith Daytona. The 5-digit 16528 introduced, as you know, Rolex introduced for the first time a self-winding movement to their chronograph range, to the Daytona range in 1988. At the time, they were outsourcing as their movement base the famous Zenith El Primero caliber 400, which they were, of course, significantly modifying, eliminating the dates, reducing the beat rates, among other things, as well as improving the shock protection of the movements. This is the full yellow gold version, 16528, 84 yellow gold, of course, in the Rolex lingo. Beautiful champagne dial with black outer rings for the chronograph registers and the brilliant cut diamonds, 8 of them for the hour markers. A nicely preserved example. With the case back sticker seemingly intact. The piece also has, as you can see, very nice, crisp, and legible hallmarks on the back, which testifies to the preservation of this precious metal case. There are no papers, but apparently they do have the matching presentation box as well as outer packaging. Early examples of Zenith Daytonas, of the 5-digit pieces, have this inverted 6 dial, as they call it. If you look at the 12-hour counter at 6 o'clock, you will see that the numbers are radially laid out on it, and therefore the 6 really looks like 9 because of the way it's laid out around the hand. That is something, quote unquote, Rolex later fixed. So sometimes people obsess over that detail of an inverted 6. This particular example, which I really like, again, as I mentioned before, I don't mind some gem setting on the dial when it comes to these kinds of pieces. This is a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona 16528 with a champagne dial, diamond set at the factory. The piece has a pre-auction estimate set in the range between roughly $22 to $22,000 to $33,000 in US dollars. Please hit the like button if you have been enjoying this. There's also the reference, again, belonging to the same generation, the 5-digit Zenith Daytona. This is 16518, which was the version presented on a leather strap, of course, with the matching deployant clasp. As you see, it has the fixed end links, much like the Oyster Flex versions of today's lineup. I've always thought that there is room in the Rolex catalog for these kinds of watches. As much as I appreciate Oyster Flex and find it a little more contemporary, perhaps, I always thought the Daytona, both as a design overall, visually, and also in terms of its dimensions, is a very conservatively inclined watch. So it actually looks kind of sexy on the leather strap. So I kind of miss the presence of this kind of presentation in the Rolex lineup when it comes to the Daytona. I wish they brought it back in some shape or form. But until then, the Oyster Flex must do. Once again, this is an inverted 6 dial early on in the production. And it is a dial with the Arabic numerals from around the same time period again, early 90s, roughly 91. And the piece is expected to fetch an amount somewhere in the range between 16,500 to roughly 33,000 US dollars. I really love the variations of the Jean-Claude Killy. This is a reference 6236. Essentially, a whole series of triple dates chronographs, triple calendar, 3-register chronographs by Rolex are given this nickname, JCK, Jean-Claude Killy, after the legendary alpine skier, the famous Olympian, French Jean-Claude Killy. He was one of those legendary Rolex ambassadors. I think he signed on the same day, at the same time with Jackie Stewart, which is kind of cool for both of those icons. for both of those idols. And historically, of course, Rolex might not be known for their complicated pieces. That was never their specialty necessarily, but they have been, for that reason, because of the rarity of such models and by necessity their limited numbers, these are some of the most desired, most aspirational vintage Rolex pieces. This is a hand-wound chronograph, of course, built on the base of Valjoux 72 from the late 50s for this particular example. Stainless steel, 36 millimeter. There's also a healthy amount of colors on the dial with kind of the pink gilt fixtures, and also, of course, the blue arrow-styled hands for both the centrally deployed chronograph seconds and the date indicator, which, of course, shows the dates on the periphery of the dial on a scale that is itself inscribed in blue. The alpha hands are quite striking and lovely as well. This is lot number 7 for a Rolex Dato Compax triple date chronograph, Jean-Claude Killy reference 6236. The piece has a pre-auction estimate set in the range roughly between 110,000 to 220,000 in US dollars. Another interesting Rolex chronograph, a pink gold piece, a double signed dial, already, which makes the piece already quite intriguing and desirable. This is a late 90s piece, the chronograph that the Italian collectors named Monoblocco, because the piece features a monoblock case. The upper part of it, including the bezel and lugs, is cut from one piece. Reference 3525. Rolex's first Oyster chronograph with the pump pushers, a classic bi-compax or 2-register configuration, and a multi-meter scale on the dial with the tachymeter on the perimeter and a telemeter laid out in a concentric circle, retailed once by Cravanzola in Rome. Pink gold case, champagne tinted dial. And 3525 also in certain configurations is also known as POW sometimes, because it was one of those models that the British soldiers who were held in German prison camps during the war could order. And Rolex sent these watches instantly, pending payment whenever possible, which is usually understood as Wilsdorf's debt of gratitude to Great Britain, as he founded the firm first in London, as you know, at that time, Wisthoff and Davis. And of course, the story of these chronographs with which the British officers timed their escape from Stalag Luft 3 in 1944 is quite famous, and it inspired the perhaps even more famous Steve McQueen movie from 1963, The Great Escape. Hey, Chris, nice to see you, man. I'm glad you caught the show today at this time, because sometimes I see you right around midnight and I feel bad because it's exactly when I'm supposed to leave. But yes, so this is a very cool watch for a number of reasons, because of its connection to that story, because of its beautiful waterproof oyster case, 3525 being again the first Rolex chronograph to be fitted with this case. Rolex's first waterproof chronograph, so to speak. And I also quite adore the multimeter scale on the dial as well. I love the way that the two chronograph registers are beautifully aligned with the slightly oversized crown, and they're also very nicely proportioned too, right? You know, they're roughly the same. They have roughly the same radius as the crown, which to me is always a stunning design detail that achieves a near perfect balance almost every time without fail. And lot number 8 is expected to realize a final hammer price within the range between 55,000 to 77,000 US dollars, roughly speaking. Again, if you want me to pull up some watches, feel free to send the lot number with a super chat, and I would be more than happy to jump right into it. Lot number 12 is an absolute classic, one of the quartets that announced the comeback of A. Lange & Söhne as a brand onto the scene. Of course, everyone knows the Lange one, the watch that made asymmetric dials cool again. Of course, the Saxonia was there, and the Arcade, which was initially conceived as their woman's watch, basically, although both the Arcade and Cabaret has a lot of appeal for me because of their Art Deco inspired shapes. But of course, the Pour le Mérite Tourbillon was also an absolute killer. If the three pieces, the Arcade, Saxonia, and the Lange one, had movements that were based on gear trains that were originally derived from Jaeger-LeCoultre movements, the Pour le Mérite Tourbillon was actually a movement designed at Renault et Papy for Lange. They were Günter Blümlein's choice. This particular example is offered in a classic 38.5 millimeter yellow gold case. Of course, the centerpiece is the tourbillon with stunningly hand-finished, beautifully slender bridge. You also have an additional small seconds on the subdial at 9 o'clock and a power reserve indicator that is also designed like a subdial. Again, a very slender version of the alpha style hands, which have become part and parcel of Lange's visual imagery. Railroad track for the minutes and Arabic numerals for the hours. A very stylistic, a very stylish, I should say, beveled cutouts for the tourbillon cage. Presentation box is beautiful, like styled like almost like a mini briefcase. And here's the movement, which of course, with the years of patina, looks like it came really onto its own with that yellow almost developing into a bronze-like patina from that copper, nickel, zinc alloy that we now know as German silver. This is lot number 12, A. Lange und Söhne, Tourbillon pour le mérite, reference 701001, yellow gold 38.5, one of the 4 watches that announced the revival, one of the 4 models that marked the rebirth of A. Lange und Söhne as an elite watchmaker with a caliber conceived, designed for them at Renault et Papy, that is today fully integrated into Audemars Piguet as their high complications workshop. This piece is expected to fetch a final hammer price between 132,000 to almost 200,000 in US dollars. It's quite a nice Lange kick here. There's a stainless steel Odysseus, which is quite a popular watch in a way, rather unexpected in the way that it has hit the market. Perhaps even Lange was not really expecting how popular it would become. Of course, it is a full set. Early examples of the Odysseus actually had bracelets that can be removed, which might make them more collectible or desirable for freaks like me who love removing the bracelet and replacing it with a leather strap or whatever. The newer versions have basically fixed end links integrated into the lugs. Here, as you can see, you can use it with any leather strap or a leather strap that you can even have designed for the watch, or even a rubber strap. I think it brings something else out of the case. Some might not like it. I'm sure the brand detested it, so they let it go. As you guys know, the crown guards actually double as correctors for the day dates, which is offered at 9 o'clock for the day of the week and 3 o'clock for the dates. And of course, much like the Zeitwerk, that double guichet style look very much gives you the air of that 5-minute stage clock that still adorns the Dresden Opera House, and that was designed by ancestors of Walter Lange. Our own community member, Kevin Kim, has one of these. And again, I loved Odysseus. I really thought that I liked the white gold version better. I was basically fooling myself. I was trying to cope because the stainless steel is basically unavailable at retail. You have to go into the secondary market and pay what may end up being a significant premium. I think the stainless steel is still the best version. The titanium one is very impressive, but that was even more limited. In either case, I think this one has the best style. Kind of like a grainy center dial, which gives some extra depth to that blue. This is lot 14 for an early version of Arangonzone Odysseus or Odysseus in stainless steel with the blue dial, with the full suite of its accessories. The piece is expected to fetch an amount somewhere in the range between 55,000 to 77,000 in US dollars. Right before it, lot 13 is actually one of my favorite Arangonzone watches ever. This is the early iteration of the datograph. This particular example being from 2003. The model itself was quite a revelation when it was introduced in 1999. I believe they had a model of the movement in their as part of their display at Basel World at the time, and as the story goes, Thierry Stern paid a personal visit and was basically had to leave with his hat in his hand, forlorn, and the rest is history. I've said a number of times that the 5070 that was introduced in 1998 had to live under the shadow of the datograph for quite a long time. And this is a watch that's pretty much redefined the game in terms of the high horology chronograph, for sure, but certainly in terms of the detail and pride that these heritage companies take in the finishing of their movements. I think without the wake-up call that came from Dresden, we might have ended up in quite a different version of reality in the high horological landscape. It comes with its box and papers, as you can see, product literature, the original certificates, presentation box, and the leather folder to hold them. There are a couple of reasons as to why I like the original design better. Of course, I like the fact that it is 39 millimeters in diameter. The case is also, I would say, significantly thinner. Right? Because it's around 12.5, if I'm not mistaken. Whereas the new version, the up and down, so to speak, which also has the additional power reserve indicator at 6 o'clock, is 41 millimeters in diameter and around 13.1 millimeter in thickness. I also like that this style has these triangularly placed Roman numerals in addition to the stick markers at 2, 6, and 10 o'clock. And of course, it has the flyback functionality, which allows you to time 2 different intervals in quick succession, since you need only one button to reset the chronograph, which will then keep running. I've always found the 1815 a little underwhelming within its context. Again, it's a great chronograph, but I find the original datograph both quite masculine, sporty in its own way, with the tachymeter arranged in the in the look of an upward facing crescent. The big dates, the luminous hands. I think it has a little bit of everything, which I really, really do appreciate. It has, it looks like nothing else. And I always feel there's a reason as to why some of the great watchmakers have come to this piece, have settled on the datograph. Of course, more famously, Philippe Dufort has the pink gold version of this generation. But Roger Smith has a platinum, just like this one. Yeah, people love the datograph, and who can blame them? This particular version is lot 13 in the Important Watches Part 1 auction at Sotheby's Geneva. And the piece has a pre-auction estimate that's set in the range between 44,000 to roughly 66,000 US dollars. Here's an incredible piece of horological history. Speaking of watches that changed the game, we talked about 1999 and Alan Gonzune's release of the datograph. But if we go a little way back, we see a watch on which Patek's reputation as the real master of complications rests. Of course, Patek already had the World Time wristwatch in their catalog at the time, which in a way announced the Stern family's aspirations for the brand, a kind of worldly, which is also to say, I guess, a global outlook at the time. In 1941, they announced 1518 and 1526, the perpetual calendar chronograph and the perpetual calendar, respectively. And the 1518 was until the IWC Da Vinci was introduced in 1985. The 1518 was the only serially produced perpetual calendar chronograph by any brand, right? We always say Patek was the first to produce in series perpetual calendar chronograph in a wristwatch form, but we forget the fact that it took other brands more than 4 decades to follow it up. So that's quite impressive, and it was quite impressive at the time that Patek mastered this in a masterful stroke of miniaturization. After all, we are talking about a case that measures right around 35 millimeters. This is a pink-on-pink watch, so 18-karat pink gold case with a pink dial that features a French calendar. Not to exaggerate or not to lean too heavily on the serial production aspect, because ultimately there were about 281 examples of the 1518 ever produced, and the pink gold, perhaps after the steel, is the most desirable version. It only exists in about 58 examples, less than 60, let's say. And only 14 of them were so far identified in the market as pink on pink, pink gold case and pink dial. Henry Graves Jr. had one, Sugar Ray Robinson had one, and also the former sovereign of Romania, King Michael I, as well as Egypt's penultimate king, Farouk I. This is almost a unique example because it is the only known 1518 with the so-called empire case and the integral bracelets. The hour markers are also quite unique because they are polished pink gold beads. And I don't know if this is the patina or not, but the day and month wheel also matches with the case. I believe that must be an actual, I mean to say, original feature of the watch. The 1518 dials usually have Arabic numerals, so this is probably a special order. And again, beyond all those details, of course, the most important thing is that this is not a modified watch. It has its unique case design that was made for the integrated bracelets, which is a beautiful 9-row kind of beads of rice or rice grain style. The watch was apparently presented to the Norwegian mogul, a car industry pioneer, Claren Mustad, I don't know, or Mustad. And the inside of the case is actually engraved with his name, as well as the place that it should be returned, right? And the lot essay says, this is the good people at Sotheby's, we believe that the inscription inside the case back was put there by the owner after the purchase of the watch, so that in case of loss, people would be able to return it, because it says Mustat Clarin, care of Benoit SACH-1820 Montreux, reward récompense. So that's what it looks like. Basically a one-of-a-kind vintage piece. Unique case design, unique dial, integrated bracelets. Archival extracts. There's also a Tortella and Sons study of the watch that is included with it. Here's the inscription on the inside of the case back. Return to the owner. And here is the bespoke dial that was made by Stern Frère. This is lot 15, a unique example of the first perpetual calendar chronograph reference by Patek Philippe, 1518R, already quite desirable in pink gold, even more desirable in pink on pink, and quite unique in this particular iteration. And therefore, for this premium lot, the estimate is actually set at a staggering $2,200,000 to $4,400,000 US dollars. That's lot 15. Please hit the like button if you have been enjoying the stream. Here's a stunning mid-century chronograph by Patek Philippe with spider lugs. You're looking at a reference 1579, 36 millimeters in yellow gold from around 1950s. baton indices with Arabic numerals at 12 and 6. The pencil hands match the yellow gold of the case, as does the continuous seconds hand and the furniture of the dial, whereas the chronograph hands, including the 30-minute totalizer and the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand, are heat blued stainless steel. That's the presentation box. And that is the case back. This is a mid-century Patek Philippe chronograph, reference 1579. I believe these 1579s are powered by the 13 ligne caliber by Valjoux, so a similar base to Valjoux 23, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves. I think this is a beautiful design with the spider lugs. We were just looking at the 5270, which is of course much more muscular, much more modern, but you can certainly see where the inspiration comes from within their own archive. This is the reference 1579 Bicompax chronograph, pure and simple, and with a pre-auction estimate that is set in the range between 66,000 to 88,000 US dollars. Next to it is stunning stainless steel Calatrava with sweep center seconds and a rather voluptuous case design that is quite diminutive by today's standards, 33 millimeters. It's a hand-wound movement. Powered by a caliber 27 SC. With those beautiful, subtly downturned lugs. This is a stainless steel three-hander, a Calatrava from around 1955. Reference 2508. The piece is expected to fetch an amount between 33,000 to 44,000 in US dollars. I'm going to take a very quick break to visit the restroom. I will leave you with this Patek Philippe pocket watch for the time being. I'll be with you please hit the like button. And I will see you in 2 minutes. Welcome back. I am back. We are looking at a very beautiful open-faced Patek Philippe pocket watch from around 1927. It's a jump hour piece. You remember I was talking shit about how sometimes there are jump hour watch designs that block the hour exactly at the top of the hour. This is one such example, even though it's almost from 3 centuries ago. Beautiful movement still with the half hunter case. Very traditionally laid out with the swan neck regulator. It was apparently retailed by Alain Merode, which I believe is a famous jeweler that, as you can see, was based in Lausanne and Nice. It has a heat-blued stainless steel Breguet-style minute hands. Heat-blued hand for the seconds on the sub-dial at 30 minutes at the traditional 6 hours. And the long signature that makes some good use of the negative space on the dial. Patek, Philippe and Company, Geneva, Switzerland. Yellow gold case, 43.5 millimeters in diameter, and a silver dial. I think it's a beautiful piece in either case. At lot 18, it has an estimate that is set in the range between 16,500 to 33,000 in US dollars. At lot number 20, we have another Patek Philippe pocket watch, this time perhaps more unique, more precious. This is a perpetual calendar with a moon phase indicator that is also chronometer rated, open-faced pocket watch in 18 karat pink gold, 52 millimeters in diameter, with a hinged case back, which allows you to glimpse onto the movements. Look at that. Wow. So beautiful and so precious. Insane. This piece comes with an archival extract that confirms its date of manufacture in 1880 and its sale on December 14th, 1882. And it also comes with a presentation case. It's also a single pusher chronograph, as you can see. Very clean dial, heat blued spade style hands with that elegantly twisted minute hand. Of course, centrally deployed chronograph seconds, which is also heat blued. And there's an additional continuous second subdial that surrounds the pointer dates at 6 o'clock as well. The watch was awarded an honorable mention in the 1883 chronometer contest organized by Société des Arts de Genève in 1883. Which at the time owned and managed the Geneva Observatory. So that's an observatory trial. It was apparently retailed by Maison C. Villard of Lyon. Once again, this is the movement made in 1880. A chronometer rated with an honorable mention in what was essentially an observatory trial. A perpetual calendar chronograph with an indicator for the moon phases at 12 o'clock. The piece has an estimated value between roughly 38,500 to 60,500 in US dollars. Lot 21 is a Breguet Classique alarm watch. Of course, Vulcain has a particular association with the complication when it comes to alarm wristwatches. People also love the Jaeger-LeCoultre Memovox. So the Vulcain Cricket and JLC Memovox are kind of collectors' favorites in the genre, but Breguet also has a very established tradition of making alarm wristwatches. And this is one such example. It's actually from around 1997, so pre-Swatch, certainly. A beautiful neo-vintage example of the Breguet Classique in 18-karat yellow gold, 39 millimeters in diameter. Of course, in the distinguished tradition of Breguet, it has a dial produced out of a gold blank, engine turned by hand and silvered, and it has sweep center seconds, Breguet styled hands for the hour and minutes, all of them heat blued, and a very discreet date window at 6 o'clock. The alarm is set with the additional crown that's right at around 2 o'clock, whereas time setting is controlled by the crown at 4 o'clock. The classic Breguet case design is, of course, beautiful. Again, finely fluted on the case band with extended teardrop-shaped lugs. And in this case, with a beautiful domed mirror-polished bezel. As you can see from the case back, it is relatively well preserved. With its box and papers. This is a Breguet Classique 3600 BA, an alarm wristwatch in 18-karat yellow gold from around 1997 with an estimated value of 16,500 to 33,000 in US dollars. Guten Morgen, Fries. Guten Morgen, Pommes frites. It's nice to see you. Yeah, I actually love the Type 20 alarm they did. I always adored that watch. It's basically, you can think of it as a time-only version of the Breguet Type 20 with a little bit extra, so to speak. Of course, that is the alarm function. They are not easy to come by. I don't remember now whether that was whether it was a limited edition of some sort, honestly. But I find them extremely sexy. Type 20 is already a great design, but this is a very interesting take. Reference 3860 Réveil. The oversized Arabic numerals are there. The syringe hands are there. And the grain brushed rotational 60-minute timing bezel is there as well. So essentially, you have the aesthetics of the Type 20 in a time and date watch that also has an additional alarm function. What more can you ask? I think there were some. That's the stainless steel. I think it was made in precious metal as well. Which looks a little too much for my taste. But in either case, it's a very cool piece. Ostensibly the same movement, of course, as you can see from the dial layout with this particular piece, which is much more classically designed, but from around the same time period. Fries, I will have to get back to you on that. I'm assuming that the movement would be Lemania, because during the revival era, especially when Daniel Roth was present, that was for the most part the case. Even after Daniel Roth left, they still continued collaborating with Lemania. The Tourbillon was from them as well, as you know. Yeah, I'm guessing it's Lemania. Oh, okay, I found it. So the stainless steel version, I don't actually know if that is the stainless steel version, but a limited run of 500 pieces that might include all metals or just the stainless steel. And apparently it has a Breguet 579 movement, which is built on the base of Lemania 2980. So there is the answer to your question as to what was at the heart of these Breguet Réveil alarm wristwatches from the end of the last century. But yes, you were on point with the Lemania, and it turns out it is 2980, which Breguet branded 579. This is a watch I really like as well. This is Jaeger-LeCoultre Master Grande Tradition. It is a perpetual calendar tourbillon with a moon phase indicator, which is a pointer rather than a more graphic, romantic design. And of course, it has a day-night indication as well. Pointer date at 9. At 3 o'clock, you have the day of the week. Surrounding it, the moon phases that are again indicated by a hand. And at 12 o'clock, you have an oversized subdial that surrounds the signature of the brand and indicates the month. And within it also, there's a 4-digit expression of the year as well. The tourbillon cage is the main attraction in the lower half of the dial. And there's a three-pronged seconds hand that pivots on the tourbillon bridge and indicates the seconds in 20 in a 20-second scale. Beautiful tourbillon bridge that is bolted on the lower third of the dial with lovely heat blued screws, which adds a dash of color to inside and around the tourbillon cage. Here's a look at the movement from the back, from behind, with a nice open-worked oscillating weight in pink gold. The piece comes with a JLC presentation case as well as the setting pin. And again, this is 42.5 millimeter in diameter in platinum. Unfortunately, the déployant clasp that comes with it is in white gold. That's one of my pet peeves, as you guys know. The estimated value of the watch is between 33,000 to 55,000 US dollars. At lot 24, we have an interesting Cartier piece, kind of like the creations we had become used to from the time Carole Forestier-Cassapy was the technical director at Cartier. She's now with TAG Heuer. This is a flying tourbillon and a minute repeater. with the tourbillon cage given the pride of place at 12 o'clock. As you can see, it has integrated that wishbone style Cartier C logo, which helps you track the seconds as well. Guilloche dial and a good view of both the governor and the hammers in the lower part of the dial. Of course, the gong itself is exposed as well. Beaded crown topped off with a sapphire cabochon. And at 8 o'clock, you have a pusher to activate the chiming watch. This is a rather gigantic piece, 45 millimeters in titanium, right? The titanium is generally regarded as a very loud metal for the chiming watch. Sword-styled hands in a heat-blued stainless steel, which harmonizes nicely with the sapphire cabochon on the crown. A nice hunk of metal, nice hunk of steel, titanium on the wrist, with the stylish red box from Cartier. And here is a good look at the movement from the back, which is just as impressive, if not more. Hey, Fries. Thanks for doing the research in the background. I love it. Love you, man. So he says, apparently, the Lemania 2980, which is the Breguet, which is the base of the Breguet alarm wristwatch movement, which they named Breguet 579, is the same movement as the Omega Memomatic from the 60s, shared movement like the Lemania CH27 and Omega 321, basically. Omega, Tissot, Lemania, they were part of a consortium, basically, for a good part of their existence. So they had a lot of things in the common. They shared a lot of technologies and know-how, and of course, movements. We were looking at lot 24, which is Rotonde de Cartier, a minute repeating flying tourbillon from around 2017. The watch comes with its box and papers as well. And it is expected to fetch an amount within the range between 132,000 to 198,000, roughly speaking. Again, Cartier uses a lot of titanium in their chiming watches, and that gives them a very loud sound. Again, if you would like me to look at any of these watches, please feel free to send in the lot number. I'm not going to say I choose them at random. I kind of go with my own taste. But you can always divert my attention to a specific watch if you send in the lot number, especially with super chats. And in either case, I really appreciate your support. You know, the fact that you are there in the chat already means something. If you hit the like button, even better. And hey, if you share the content, if you tell your friends, that will help me build the kind of community that gathers together around knowledge of and passion for wristwatches. We are looking at the Sotheby's Important Watches auction. This is going to be taking place in Geneva on November 5th. Lot 26 is a very popular version of the Aquanaut. As you guys know, the 5167 is the jumbo already for the Aquanaut, where it grew to 40 millimeters in diameter from the original. It was first released, when it was first released, the Aquanaut was 36.5. It grew over time. And this particular version actually is 42.2 millimeters in diameter, 5168G. It's quite popular in blue with the matching strap, but I think the khaki green dial with the matching tropic style khaki green rubber strap might be probably the most desirable version of the time and date Aquanauts. This was their attempt to appeal to a youthful audience when it was first introduced in 1997. And nowadays, of course, both the Aquanauts and Nautilus really drive the attention to the brands, even though Patek was at least known just last generation as a representation of classical elegance and also of complicated wristwatches. This is a 5168G with the green dial and the matching tropic style rubber strap. And it comes with its presentation box, a copy of its certificate of origin, instruction manual, the leather bifold wallet, travel pouch, as well as its outer packaging. The piece is expected to finalize a hammer price around 66,000 to 110,000 in US dollars. Next up is Patek Philippe Nautilus in reduced size. Uh-oh, my internet is giving me problems again. Come on, work with me, not against me, as the big boy says. Work with me, not against me. Okay. Let's give this a shot. All right, you can see me. I'll share this. No. So strange. Okay. Okay, let's see. Sorry, guys. It seems to... Okay, please stay tight. I will restart very quickly and see if we can get some more mileage out of this. How about... Actually, let's not. No, let's do it. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Let's see if my connection works any better. Seems like it. We're looking at lot 27 of Sotheby's Geneva Important Watches, which is going to take place on November 5th. Size version of the Nautilus that was all the rage in the 80s and 90s. It also features a sweep center second sand, and it's basically proportionally shrunk otherwise. Here featured with a classic ribbed design, that black and blue gradient dial. Practically with the full set of its accessories, except for the presentation box. Not too long ago, these were actually a great deal, especially in two-tone. In stainless steel and the blue dial, they still carried a little bit of a premium. But I think within today's market conditions around hype watches, this is still one genre. This is still one kind of a Nautilus that you can still get a decent, especially if you're a patient, especially if you like to hunt around. This particular example at lot number 27 is listed with a pre-auction estimate that is set in the range between 28,600 to almost 44,000 US dollars. There are a lot of very interesting and beautiful Nautiluses. I will do an oddball. This is a very unique one. As you guys know, 5712, the moon phase, is one of my favorite versions. And quite honestly, it has kind of its particular crew of enthusiasts, so to speak. Some people love it because of the asymmetric dial. Others love it because of the romanticism associated with a moon phase indicator. And others simply love it because of its micro-rotor movement that's built on the base of caliber 240, which gives it a sleek profile that's just a smidgen thicker than the standard time and date version, the Jumbo, with the additional complication. This is a relatively unique version. As you guys know, Patek doesn't have a lot of two-tone watches in their catalog. They don't really do a lot of two-tone these days, of late. Nowadays, I believe the one watch that immediately comes to mind is the 5980 Line 1 AR. What my friend from JJ's watch hangouts, famously called the rich man's bluesy, the flyback chronograph version of the Patek Philippe Nautilus. That comes in two-tone. But this version of the 5712, that's been discontinued I think for a while now. But this is from 2010. I believe it was discontinued in 2014. Of course, this is a very unique two-tone expression, since it actually uses gray gold or white gold and pink gold. And that is also reflected on the dial too, since it has that gradient silver dial or anthracite gray dial, which it combines with pink gold dial fixtures. Yeah, Fry says Nautilus investors are selling apparently. Yeah, the two-tone moon phase is interesting. It is on the bracelets, 5712 GR. It does come with box papers and the setting pin. And it has a pre-auction estimate that's set between 55,000 to 77,000 in US dollars, roughly speaking. You know, it's, in a way, it's quite similar to the 5712 on the leather bracelets, but very unique as well. You know, that white gold case that is combined with the pink gold bezel and the flanks, as well as the dangling end links. It's pretty cool. Lot 27 is an original jumbo with a tropical dial, right? That has basically taken on this coppery bronze color. Patek Philippe Nautilus 3700s, line 1A, stainless steel on the stainless steel bracelet. As you can see, this is a two-hander. It's based on the JLC 920 movement. So without a seconds hand and the date at 3 o'clock. Very sleek watch. The original jumbo, the 3700, is around 7.6 millimeters thick, whereas the modern jumbo that was discontinued in 2021 is 8.3 millimeters thick, and finally the new version that only exists so far in white gold is 8.2 millimeters thick. So there is perhaps an appeal, a distinctive factor for the vintage version, for the original, which I always like just a little more. This is the original Patek Philippe Jumbo, Nautilus reference 3700 line 1A at lot number 28. The piece is expected to fetch an amount somewhere in the range between 88,000 to 176,000 in US dollars. The modern jumbo is right next to it at lot 29. It is an example from around 2017, bought right around the time, it seems, when the hype was hitting the streets. Of course, it comes with the full suite of its accessories. Arguably, the 5711 is just as desirable as the original jumbo. Because it is different enough, right, that it can appeal to a different kind of collector. Of course, there's the sweep center second hand. That is the most distinctive difference. And also it is not substantively, but a slightly larger watch as well, especially in the way of thickness that we were just talking about. This is the caliber 324, which is of course the source of that thickness. The box papers and the product literature. The slot 29, which has a pre-auction estimate set in the range between 66,000 to 88,000 in US dollars. Many love the 5980 even more, because at the end of the day, the original Jarajanta designs from the 1970s were really straddling the two ends of the spectrum between sports watches and dress watches, between a sporty, everyday wearing piece and an elegantly classical and slender dress watch. So the modern versions have a kind of heft and presence that the original perhaps didn't have. And in complicated versions, whether it is the annual calendar, the 5726, or the flyback chronograph, which you're looking at now, the 5980. These pieces are even more desired by certain kinds of collectors. And I am actually a fan of Patek's crosshair style chronograph register, single oversized register at 6, which has a 60-minute counter in the form of 2 concentric circles with 0 to 30 on the outside, and 30 to 60 on the inside, inscribed in red, indicated with a red hand. And then within that, you also have the 12-hour counter. Of course, people also love the 5990, the travel time chronograph, which is, of course, even more of a beast, so to speak. And I believe the 5980 line 1A, the stainless steel version, is actually discontinued, if I'm not mistaken. I think you can still get it in two-tone. I think you can still get it in pink gold. I think there's a version in pink gold presented on a leather strap, but the stainless steel is discontinued. Comes with the full suite of its accessories. At lot 30, this is the Patek Philippe Nautilus stainless steel flyback chronograph 5980 line 1A from around 2012. The piece is expected to finalize a hammer price somewhere in the range between $99,000 to $132,000 in US dollars. I'm going to clock out right around midnight, so if you want to show your support, please hit the like button. If you're just stumbling on the channel, I'm here with watch content every day, so feel free to subscribe and stay on board, explore the content, like the videos, share with friends. All of this really helps me a great deal in building a community around passion for wristwatches. If you want to squeeze in one last super chat, perhaps to ask a watch-related question, or specifically to ask a question about any of the lots presented on this auction, the important watches auction by Sotheby's, feel free to do that. Otherwise, I have about 2 more watches to share with you. You are now looking at lot 36, lot number 36. This is the classic 3970, the Patek Philippe Perpetual Calendar Chronograph in 36 millimeter. This is the 3970E with the solid case back, built on the base of Lemania CH27 or 2310. The piece comes with its papers, including the original invoice, apparently. was purchased from the Patek Philippe Salon in Geneva. Must be someone's post-Christmas present from 1990, when Ari Stern was still the president of the company. The case is very nicely preserved with those beautifully downturned stepped lugs. Very beautiful piece. Yellow gold, 36 millimeters. Absolute classic. The piece has a pre-auction estimate set in the range between 77,000 to 110,000 in US dollars. We have a 5204R. This is the reference that succeeded the legendary 5004, the perpetual calendar split-second chronograph, which was built, I'm talking about the 5004, on the base of the Lemania CH27. This is the one that for the first time featured the in-house Patek Philippe movements, the CH29, with an enlarged case at 40 millimeters, which is even larger, with this unique protruding crown that integrates, of course, the rattrapante button, the button for splitting the seconds on the chronograph, the inverted moon phase. It is at 6 o'clock, encircled by the pointer dates, and the rest of the dial layout is quite similar to the 5270 we were just looking at, with the porthole-like apertures for the day and night indicator and the leap year indicator. Here's a look onto the split-second version of the CH29. And lot 38 is a Patek Philippe pink gold perpetual calendar split-second chronograph, reference 5204R. The piece is expected to realize a final hammer price somewhere between 154,000 to 220,000 in US dollars. Let's take a look at these two Omega Speedmasters and close the show for tonight. Lot 43 is the original Speedmaster Ultraman, reference 43, from around 1968. This is the combination of the Speedmaster Professional case at 42 millimeters, Omega 321 movements, so the original Moonwatch caliber, and that mysterious orange tinted centrally deployed chronograph hand This is the reference 145013-67SP. The orange hand examples were not a Japanese limited edition of some sort. They were sold worldwide. They were the last Speedmaster reference to feature the SP designation, which signifies the enhanced water resistance to the pushers, as well as the final reference to be powered by caliber 321, the original Moonwatch caliber. The pre-auction estimate is set between 33,000 to 55,000 in US dollars. At lot 44, there's a piece that is offered by the original family that has been consigned from the original family. Here the father is wearing the watch, seemingly. Here is the original box, as well as the warranty card, which is actually in Swedish. It's a reference 2915-2, an Omega Speedmaster broad arrow in the original 38 millimeter case. As you see, with the matching tachymeter bezel, which has been turned into a ghost, has completely faded in terms of its markings. And the piece is also presented on, it is mounted on beautiful flat link bracelets. From 1958 roundabout. Of course, the Speedmaster itself was introduced in 1957, so this is roughly the second series. And it is called broad arrow because of that distinctive set of hands. Of course, it runs on the caliber 321, which is, which shares, right? We were just looking at the 3970, which shares that base with very illustrious generations of Patek Philippe perpetual calendar chronographs, perpetual calendar split-second chronographs, and also quote-unquote solo chronographs. The historical, of course, the mythology that surrounds the Apollo missions and the moon landing, as well as the iconic aesthetic of the Speedmaster is evergreen, is almost always popular, and early examples are even more desirable, especially when they're in honest, unmolested condition. This piece comes with a presentation box as well as the retailer's guarantee dated December 13th, 1958, with a document for the payment plan as well as a numbered Omega hang tag. Again, it was consigned by the original owner's family. This is an Omega Speedmaster reference 2915-2 broad arrow at lots number 44, mounted on a beautiful flat link bracelet. The piece is expected to fetch an amount somewhere in the region between 55,000 to 110,000 US dollars. Thank you so much, everybody. Please hit the like button. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for interacting with me in the chat. Thank you for all your super chats in the earlier stream where you joined me in unboxing a new watch to my collection. If you were wondering about that, you can still go back to that link, which I'm posting in the chat again, and check out what it is. We built it up a little for too long, but it was a great conversation as always with my friend Ali Reza, formerly known as the Squatch Box, now known as A-Plugs. Thank you, Ali, for being with me, also for part of this show as well. Thank you for all your support, the gift memberships, which helped me welcome 10 new members. Of course, Madman also joins, 11 new members for today, which I really appreciate, and everyone else who showed their support with super stickers and super chats. I love you all. It really, really matters a lot. Increasingly more, of course, since I'm going full-time very soon. And your support will be integral to me as I try to provide increased quality and quantity of content here. So I really, really cherish all those super chats and all your other support. If you want to support the channel, you know how. The links are all there in the video description. You can also simply hit the like button on as many videos as you can. Tell your friends, share some of the videos you like, whether they are the 1-hour interviews or 10-15 minutes explorations in certain genres, complications, models, and brands of watches that are always oriented with an eye to finding a good deal on the secondary markets. And there is more of that for the audience of members, of course, who join the channel at a very reasonable $4.99 a month. Again, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for helping me celebrate, and thank you for being with me while we explored the Sotheby's Geneva important watches auction part 1. I'm gonna come back on Thursday, covering the rest of that auction, as well as the part 2 of Sotheby's Geneva's important watches. I can't wait to be with you again. Until then, feel free to leave some comments. Feel free to write to me via email, on Instagram, whatever you want. As long as you find me, I'll be there for you. I will respond any questions, any comments. It's all welcome. I look forward to seeing you soon again. Take care.